Hello. Thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert. I'm Al Segalla. I'll be your host, and we appreciate you watching. We have excellent guests, and in that tradition, we're continuing with Mark Dyken. Mark is actually started a radio station, and the radio station is Blue Mountain Radio, KQBM. Mark, welcome.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you started a radio station, and also you're involved with a community group as well. And which came first?
Well, I originally worked for the Blue Mountain Coalition for Youth and Families.
Okay.
And while I was there as a co-director with Katrine Lambie, we took out an application with the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, for a frequency license and a construction permit for a full power FM station, community station, also known as a NCE, non-commercial educational. And after a long, drawn-out process, we got a letter from the FCC that we had beat 93 other applicants and were awarded the frequency and the construction permit. So we did build a radio station in a small former barber shop on the grounds of the Blue Mountain Coalition for Youth and Families in downtown West Point.
Wow.
And are now operating both on the internet and as a full FM frequency. And then there was, after that, with a partnership with the Blue Mountain Players in West Point, we applied for another frequency for a low power FM, because the funny thing was, even though the broadcast originates in the studio in West Point, it's sent by internet to a tower outside of Angels Camp, and the signal is really strong from San Andreas to most of Sonora, but doesn't get to West Point.
Oh, no.
That's part of the problem of mountains. So we were able to get with a partnership with another nonprofit. They are the owners of a low power frequency, 103.7 FM LP in West Point. And so that became the primary station, and what is produced and broadcast out of that low power station on the grounds of Blue Mountain Coalition for Youth and Families in a partnership with the Blue Mountain Players, 90.7 FM rebroadcasts all of that to the rest of the community. So that's how the radio station sort of works.
That's interesting. I couldn't get the lower frequency, the 103.7
or 90.7.
The 90.7. Except in Angels Camp area.
Get it really strong in Angels, and depending on your radio.
I live in Copperopolis, so
it's
spotty, kind of spotty down there.
Yeah, it doesn't go really well down there. But eventually what we hope to do is be able to get enough, a lot of it is resources and financing, of course,
right,
but get enough resources and financing to put what are known as repeaters in different parts of the county, because the area that we were licensed to cover does include places like Copperopolis, but the topography doesn't allow us to get there without additional technology besides the broadcast tower the way it is right now with the original signal.
On Bear Mountain, there's a lot of aerials up there, a lot of cell towers, and from Bear Mountain you can see all the way around, so that'd probably be where you want to be.
That could be a really good, and all of it has to do with the FCC, where different things are, where I learned a lot about it, but I'm still far from an expert, and it's a really good thing that we have a team of people, which that's what I have to mention about this. Katrine and I were the people who took the original paperwork out and were granted the license, but there's been this team of people working on it for 5 or 6 years, 12 years total from the time we filed the application until the time we're here. But a dedicated group of people, including a volunteer engineer who drives all the way down from Nevada City, Grass Valley area, and we couldn't operate a station without him. Some other help on the tower end of it, some really dedicated board members, some very creative, especially young people coming into the mix to keep us up with technology. So in the spirit of community radio, I might have pushed that wagon, but it's a wagon full of people that are really working to make this happen.
Okay, I know that one of the horrible things is to have dead air. And so you broadcast through certain times, is that correct?
We have now, I believe, 19 broadcasters that do shows, and some of the shows are repeated. I have a show, for instance, on Wednesday night, and it gets replayed another couple times during the week. And then we have several hours of pre-programming stuff that we bring in nationally and from around the state, around the country. And then the rest of the time we have a music stream that just plays music nonstop.
Yeah, I heard the music was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
We have a fellow who listens regularly out in Columbia, and he calls the station a lot. And he said, well, what I would recommend to people is that they tune their radio to 90.7 FM and then pull the dial off and throw it away. So I never turn it off, and I leave it on your station all the time. So that's the kind of stuff that makes...
That's dedication.
Yeah, and because the station is all volunteers, all the broadcasters, all the board members, all of the people who've done the...
How many in the group? How many volunteers are there?
Well, our board has 7 members, and then all of them but one are broadcasters, and then there are another 13 live broadcasters and a few other volunteers that help us. So probably the whole crew right now is somewhere around 20 people.
That's a lot of people to manage.
It is. Fortunately, they're all really nice folks. They get along pretty well, and they're dedicated to, it's a craft, and we're all amateurs at it, but we really enjoy it. Like you were telling me how you like doing this. It's the same with all the radio people. They just really...
Now they're all volunteers.
All volunteers.
That's so beautiful, because sometimes it's difficult with volunteers to keep a schedule because they have other things going on in their life. And so they have to really be dedicated, show up on time.
Yeah, and the amount of work that some of our broadcasters put into their program. We have a program called the Oh Be Joyful American Radio Hour, which is actually 4 hours long. And a young couple, Brian and Susie Tomasi, put that show together. They're both very talented musicians, and they just had a baby. So they're actually producing that show at home and bringing it to us. But they work to put that 4-hour show on. Brian often works 20 hours during the week to make his show.
Oh, wow.
And people listen to it, and they love his program. And we put a lot of our broadcasters put their shows up on archive.org, so you can download them and listen to them for free. And Brian's shows have been downloaded thousands of times by people all over the place.
He's viral.
He's Brian.
Tell me about the what type of music is it?
Every programmer can do what they want. I'll give you an example.
Well, you mentioned one show that Oh Be Joyful.
So Oh Be Joyful, I think once or is it twice a year, Brian, I should call you on the phone, but he does, it's Americana, is what he calls the American Radio Hour. So everything he does is from American artists, and he crosses all genres of music. He's pretty much of a folk rock kind of musician himself, so a lot of it starts in that bass, but there's nothing off limits on the show. And then the other part of his show that they are really into movies. And so for every show, there's a movie that's picked, and you're hearing clips from certain scenes, Brian and Susie's commentary about it. They have a little piece that he does with his mom called True Story, and his mom gives you some facts that you don't know about from the movie, and she has this really cool voice and true story. And he's fully developed a really cool 4 hours of entertainment that almost anybody would like. It's a little bit of an acquired taste, like old-time radio or old-time variety television.
I love bluegrass.
And Brian's a bluegrass guy too. So, so that's just one kind of show. We have another person who's doing a jam band show. We have another person who does a 60s and 70s, mostly psychedelic show. My show, I pick a theme, and then I play music from any kind of music that goes with the theme. So, for instance, this week my theme was Earth Day, because it's Earth Day celebration coming up. So I had a lot of music from people who had different things to say about the environment or who had worked on it themselves. We have other people who do, Den and Kat do a show called Down from the Mountain, where it's all about Americana and bluegrass music. And then Kat does an interview show, much like yours, except she only interviews women. It's called Every Woman's Hour.
Oh, that's gender discrimination.
I know, huh? But it's not that, if you could come up and do a show Every Man's Hour. I don't know if you...
No, that would be gender discrimination, too. Now, how... The coalition, well, let's tell a little bit, what does the coalition do?
So the coalition was founded in the early 90s by a group of moms who wanted a place for their kids to be able to go. And that grew into a youth center, got a grant from the California Youth Authority in the late 90s, and purchased the old West Point hardware store and lumber yard and a few acres of property that went with it. And that's when I came to work there, was right after the purchase had been made, but there was no money left to remodel the building or really run the operation. And we were able to secure some grants, and with a whole bunch of volunteer labor, again, that community just knows how to get that done. Built an incredible 3,000 square foot facility, remodeled the hardware store, turned some of the lumber storage into a connected part of the building, built a basketball court, a skateboard half pipe, a large stage for outdoor events, and the radio station on site. And that's been operating as a nonprofit. And here's one of the interesting things about it. When they got the grant with California Youth Authority, these grants were given out across the state. And here's your money. You don't have to pay us back. And if in 10 years we come back and you're still operating a youth center, money's yours free and clear. And thank you very much. The Blue Mountain Coalition for Youth and Families in West Point was one of only 2 grantees in the entire state of California to fulfill that obligation and own that piece of property free and clear.
That's awesome.
And that's the only government funding the place has very little since then. It's run all entirely on donations, private grants, and the will and desire of its dedicated board and its director. Keep that place alive.
Well, our taxpayers. So, are you a C4 corporation?
It's a 501c3.
Oh, that's the C3 is charity, and people can write off money they give you. We're C4. We're also nonprofit, but they can't write it off because we're more educational. And we do public forums like candidates forums. There'll be 2 coming up for the supervisor's race that we co-sponsor. And also we've been doing several on our PATV, and we have 2 coming up on PATV, but we're not officially co-sponsoring. There's going to be a timer. And so that means ones that people like, I'll give more time. Maybe. Dang. Well, maybe not.
Will that be your job? We have a flag or a bell, throw something at them when they go more than 1 minute over, they get the...
We spray painted some paper plates. So red, green, and
yellow.
Yellow, yeah.
Get ready.
And
That's a good idea.
show the plate.
Huh. Does it work?
Yeah, it worked real good. We've
nice.
done it twice. And we had the newspaper editor as a moderator, and I'm more ideological oriented, and probably maybe on the unbalanced to you, if that's possible, but having the newspaper editor as the moderator worked out pretty good because they kept it well done, and there was never a complaint that the questions were not proper or anything like that. And I think that the presidential presidential forums could take a lesson from us on how to do it honestly and straightforward.
Low tech is the right way to go, right?
Yeah.
I thought the same thing about all this snafu with voting, and they don't have this trouble with the machines. And I've been told about in a lot of primitive places, is how can you get these people to vote? They don't even read and write. You know what they do? Set out buckets. This bucket goes under one person's picture or name or whatever, and this one over here. And when you walk in, they check who you are, they give you a stone. Wherever you're stone, whichever bucket it winds in, that's who you voted for. It's pretty hard to mistake a stone. It goes where it's supposed to go. No hanging chad, no lost in the internet.
Whoever's got the rocks wins.
Right, it's a really accurate count. And you can even go back and recount as many times as you want because all the stones stay in the bucket. So you could do that cool. Here.
Now, how many? Now, this is for youth. Is that correct?
The
primarily
BMCYF has grown in. It used to be just BMCY. And then the F was added because it's serving entire families now. I'll give you an example of some of the things they do. Twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they serve completely free, amazing dinner. And anyone can show up and eat that dinner. It doesn't matter. And that organization has since acquired a garden space across the road in downtown West Point and has a huge community garden. So a lot of the food comes out of that garden and feeds people over here. There are senior exercise classes, senior yoga classes, along with kids' art, kids' homework assistance. You could get your laundry done there. There's just all kinds of projects that go in and out of there. If there's something going on, it becomes an emergency center. It serves the community in all these different ways. So there's always a youth component, and especially an art component. And that's been the central mission, but it's grown to where it serves all these all these other ways.
Yeah, it kind of allows people to have an outlet to be able to help others and feel important. They have
And connect
purpose
with each other.
Yeah,
When you go there, like at the meals,
Yeah.
Everybody's there.
What's a typical menu?
Some kind of good vegetable dish. If there is meat, it's organic, so it might be like buffalo or something like that, but a lot of vegetarian dishes. They never serve sodas or anything like that.
Right.
There's always good salad, fresh fruits and vegetables, usually some pretty good desserts. So, people come, because oftentimes people associate, if there's a free meal, it's where poor people go, and it'll be low quality, it'll be commodities, cheese, and white bread.
Donated
Right.
bread.
It's not that way here. They run a high-quality food operation and are very dedicated to quality food. So you'll get your whole grains, you'll get your really nicely prepared sauces, everything that goes with whatever the meal is, and people are usually pretty surprised the first time they come.
Yeah, my wife and I are oriented the same way. We believe in wholesome foods.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that seems to be paying off in the long run. I go to the doctor a lot less than a lot of people I know.
I'm trying to get younger, and it's the only way I know.
Good on you. Yeah, it's never too late to start, right?
So now the radio station plays in works together. So you have programs that tie into the coalition.
Well,
or
that's probably the one place we still are looking to get better, is to have more youth on the radio. There's a young couple who do a show about the forest and about the fire. They're in their early 20s, and that's the youngest broadcasters we have. We would like to, and we've talked with youth radio out of Oakland about doing some kind of a workshop and getting up here so we could train people like as young as 12 to 18 on how to put radio together and produce their own show.
It'd be educational then. It could train people to...
Right.
Oh,
and there are
cool.
jobs in that field, and there are just a lot of things to learn about how media is produced, how things work in the world of getting your message out. And the kids have a really unique perspective. That's what I enjoyed about working there, is being with the kids. My other day job, I work for a school district, and kids have a lot to say. I like listening to them.
Yeah, a lot of wisdom. Mm-hmm. What sort of messages are taught to the kids in the way of principles, besides enjoying themselves and eating good food?
Well, I would say the number one quality that's stressed up there at the youth center is a sense of integrity and responsibility.
Honesty.
Honesty, of course, will play into that, but being responsible for yourself, realizing that even if you're coming from a very difficult situation, which a lot of the kids are, if I can put myself in a good position, I can make things work out different. And so that place works on being that safe place where kids know, I can come here, I'll be safe, I can be who I am, and that'll help me get through these really tough times. And
right. Being a teenager is tough anyway.
Tough anyways, and when you live in a place that's economically depressed, kind of isolated, you've got some issues with a lot of meth use up there and things like that, you say that this could be a tough spot. So when the kids have that one place where they feel safe,
right,
that's a big deal. And one place where everyone's open, no one's going to judge you, but the bar for your behavior, your responsibility, your level of integrity, that's not lowered. We're here to try to help you get there, not to bring it down to you, to make it easy for you. So that's been the mission there, and it's served really well in that capacity. And the way that I know that is because so often, still when I'm there, and certainly when Katrina's there, kids who were there 10, 15 years ago stop in, bring their own kids, sometimes telling them how much this place meant to them or how this is what helped get them through.
How long have you been in operation?
It's been in operation since the early 90s. It's been in that building since 2000.
Oh, this is not new.
This is not new. And it is, it is such a unique nonprofit and so special in such a small place. Per capita, there are very few things that are as well developed as that organization and its physical space, and the fact that it owns, it doesn't have any debt, it owns everything there, and is such a contributor to the community. And then on top of it, it holds the license for the Full Power FM station. So I mean, it's quite a community resource, quite an organization.
Well, I wish you were a little closer to Copperopolis, that food sounds like it really
The
good.
food is amazing, and what I would say that what should happen is there should be some similar center in every one of our communities, and it sure would be nice to have a big central, giant family resource center of some kind or something like that, or a community center. But with the distances that we have to travel here to get to places, wouldn't it be nice if Copperopolis had one, San Andreas had one, Angels Camp, up country, up Highway 4.
Yeah. Now, it seems, I don't know for sure, but it seems like teaching individual accountability, responsibility, integrity is the fundamental, is really the foundation for a free society. In an unfree society, we depend on others or the state to direct our activity. But in a free society, we've got to be responsible for ourselves. And so it seems like you're helping to reinforce that.
I'll tell you, I do a fair amount of coaching and other work with youth, but I really love coaching basketball. And when I tell my teams, I quote the great John Wooden, one of the greatest basketball coaches ever: discipline yourself so others don't have to. So if you take care of business with yourself, and our responsibility in that is to lay out clear expectations, to support them and notice them when they do meet those expectations, and to be fair about what we do, and especially work to right what's wrong when those expectations aren't met. But now we've given you these clear parameters. Now that saying applies. If you discipline yourself, I won't have to, and neither will anyone else. And you won't have a record with law enforcement, and when something does come up, people will know you for your ability to do that. Right.
You'd be recognized as a person of integrity.
Yeah. So
now this, I wonder if if this could be helpful to in our correctional facilities or in our prison system, where there's a belief that a much higher level of reform can be done, where the people can actually be motivated not to come back. And I wonder if some of the teachings that you're doing can dovetail into that.
It's funny that you would touch on that. Another thing that I'm working on is working with schools and a few other places about the effects of childhood trauma on people, and what are called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And the more ACEs you have, the worse your outcomes are in life. And if a kid has a few bad experiences or has a tough life, they wind up in the foster care system and things get pretty rough. So as you're talking about prison reform, for instance, 70% of all California state inmates are former foster children. So when we know
7%? 70%.
7 out of 10 California state inmates. So when we know that when by the time you get to foster care, things have been pretty rough for you.
Right.
So we know that if we can intervene, if we can get this to where we're understanding what's happening here, and you don't get there in the first place, that's hopefully our first line of defense. But after I've been doing some presentations around that issue, and I was just asked to go out to the Sierra Conservation Center to bring some of the work around what this effect has on you, why you might behaving some of the ways that you are, and what we can do to help get your brain rewired. That's literally what happens. Is it becomes a brain injury when you go under certain stress and trauma. We can help you get that taken care of. Exactly what you said. You might not come back here if you can put this together before you leave.
There's a martial arts studio in Valley Springs, and we had a guest talking about that, almost paralleling what you're saying, in reconditioning the mind I suppose to oppose you call ACEs or Ingrams, to try to erase a former trauma, but to build confidence in himself
and resiliency. That's the part of the key word is
self-confidence is it's critical.
Yeah, and building that confidence or that resiliency, that's what we would call a developmental asset.
Yeah.
And if you get enough developmental assets, you can overcome the ACEs, right? Got all these acronyms. But one of the most important assets we can give children is the belief that people other than their own parents, other than the adults that they're related to, that someone in the community cares about them.
Right.
And that's this is what you're talking about through Five Claw or whoever it might be, or the Blue Mountain Coalition, or some mentor who takes you under their wing and teaches you how to make a radio program or a television program. When you start to believe that person really cares about you, that's one of the big ones that can start rewiring a brain that's stuck on fight, flight, or freeze. That's what you're trying to do.
I think it's Tai Chi studio in Valley Springs. Probably would be an interesting program on your show.
Could very well be.
It was interesting on this show, and that would be great.
Yeah. I think maybe we should talk a little bit more about this. Same thing when you were talking about hosting debates. I think we should either broadcast them live or record them and put them on the radio.
We could. One of the things we could do is the right and the left. The biggest problem each of them have is communication, and because they're fearful if they step out of they don't want to think like the other person thinks. But you have a hard time communicating if you don't know what the other person thinks. So you have to almost experience what the other person experiences. Oh, okay, now I know what you mean. I know where you're coming from. Then you can communicate, and sometimes you change a little bit on both sides.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and so one of the things I'd like to see happen is to get together highly experienced, educated people that have a good knowledge of history and philosophy and psychology, and hit some of the current topics, and then just have dialogue about it. Without adjectives.
Marshall Rosenberg, who teaches nonviolent communication, and I work on that with peer mediation and some of these things with kids. He says that if you can communicate your needs and hear the other person's needs without judgment, there's no problem that can't be solved in a half an hour.
I believe that. Have you read Earl Nightingale's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. Yeah. Way back when I was being a salesperson.
I went to Toastmasters for 6 years, and the same principles came true again and again. In order to be a good speaker, you have to have your mind in the audience. You have to learn how to listen. And then you can communicate because you know what they're thinking. If you don't know, chances are there's going to be a barrier between you.
Exactly. And if you sit down, like you and I are doing right now, and you talk about anything for a little while and you get to know that person, it's a face-to-face, it's pretty hard to hate that person after that or say, I could never work that out with them.
You can hate an idea.
Sure.
But never a person.
But yeah.
Okay, now we got a few seconds left. What message do you want to leave with the audience? Okay.
Well, I'll go with the radio station idea that we have community radio, and that's what we're working on, is building community here. Building community.
Well, we want to thank you for watching our Taxpayer Alert. We have another program going in the can. This will be on cable TV in Calaveras County. And, of course, if you go to our website, calaveras.taxpayers.org, you can click on it and watch it on YouTube. See you next time.